Good evening, everyone. Thanks for sticking around. It's been a long day. Listen, this is an EFF partisan crowd. It's like an EFF electoral conference. So I don't think I need to introduce the CIC. But yeah, let's get him up here and let's get stuck into it.
Where do I go?
So we give a quick address, yeah?
Okay,
Yeah,
that's
and then
fine.
we'll get into
All right,
it.
yeah, thank
10
you.
minutes.
Thank you. Thank you very much to the former Minister of Finance, who will never be again because the ANC will not retain power in 2019, even under Cyril Ramaphosa. The leadership of the EFF, the important guests invited here today. I see you have changed venue from Vodacom to a new venue. I just wanted to tell you that there are also beautiful venues in Alexander. We can still have this type of discussions where our people are found. This platform is one of the most important platforms annually in South Africa's political and policy discourse. In the process of doing revolutionary work, it is always important to pause and engage with those who will otherwise not engage with you. If we truly trust our ideals and ideas, we should always be ready to share them with other people, particularly those who disagree with us, and defend them. The many political developments that have happened in 2017 illustrate the simple fact that our country, South Africa, is on the verge of turning into a failed state, like many other failed states in other parts of the continent. The features and definition of a failed state are not difficult to notice. 1, the absence of the rule of law. 2, the emergence of untouchable precedent. 3, massive corruption that is not acted upon. 4, promotion and embracing of mediocrity into the highest office. All these features perfectly define where we are as South Africa. We have witnessed the growing confidence of white supremacists who seek to undermine the democratic project. The capitalist backbone of the looting project are the parasitic capitalists, the Guptas who do not create any wealth but largely depend on the state for their financial muscle. The white supremacists are anchored by beneficiaries of apartheid capitalism who take advantage of the fact that the sitting government is self-destructing. All these developments do not substitute the fact that majority of our people are still excluded from the mainstream economic participation. Black people in South Africa are living in squalor, and those with political power do not know how to use political power to capture the economy on behalf of the black majority and Africans in particular. As a result, more than 30 million South Africans live in absolute poverty with no guarantee of where the next meal will come from. South Africa's economy is not growing and it's jobless, meaning that many young people who are entering the working age bracket will not be employed. The current government is dismally failing to introduce fee-free education for all. Even if they were to introduce free education, they have not invested in university and TVET colleges to absorb majority of the students who qualify for post-secondary education. Areas where black people live, the townships, villages, hostels are neglected and as a result have become spaces for reproduction of poverty and recycling of diseases and reproduction of violence. All political parties that are governing municipal level, including the ANC and the DA, are dismally failing to meaningfully improve the lives of our people. Political work has proven historically and is proving now that at times you can be presented with only two options which are both wrong. That's what we're confronted with in 2016, where we had to choose between the two devils, being the ANC and the DA. And they remain the two devils, and there's no better devil. But because we want to go with scripted approaches when we're confronted with difficult moments, we always thought that the immediate response to that crisis will be a coalition. But none of us asked a question: why are we not giving the masses a second chance to decide which government they want? But because we are all obsessed with positions and governing of municipalities, we thought the simplest answer to that difficult situation was a coalition. But the masses, particularly the voters, have got a responsibility to decide what type of government they want. And if they are so undecided, we must make it upon ourselves to insist that the voters should decide what type of government they want, because they put parties like ourselves in a difficult situation. That's why we opted not to participate in any coalition government, because there was no party which is meeting our non-negotiable cardinal pillars. All we did was to sit and vote for anything that makes sense at a time. So if we go to Johannesburg municipality, and there is a mayor of the ANC with a history of immediate corruption, and a mayor of the DA who has got no history of anything except selling the hair products, you are bound to try the hair product man, because he has got no history of wrongdoing. So we were forced to do that. But even after doing that, we come here to confess that indeed that was not an answer. Our people in those municipalities are still subjected to difficult conditions. Our people are still subjected, particularly in Johannesburg, to xenophobic utterances by the mayor of Johannesburg, who think that resolving a problem which is affecting all of us is through attacking foreign nationals, which is not a solution. Even if foreign nationals were to leave tomorrow, we will remain unemployed. Our infrastructure will remain in a bad condition. If you doubt that, ask the people of the North here in Sandton. They spend 3 days without water. And I suspect some of them are here. They didn't take a shower in the morning in a municipality run by the DA. So even if you chase away the foreigners, that pipe was still going to burst. It is not bursting because there are foreigners here. So it is wrong to think that our problems are caused by foreigners. In Tshwane, you've got a mayor who has got a white supervisor who then supervises all the senior black executives. There is a lady called Marietta who sits in the top executive management meetings. Even when she's not in a top management herself, she's just a chief of staff. Why? Black Africans cannot be trusted with such a huge responsibility. They require white supervision. So those are the things that we come to experience from time to time, including in Nelson Mandela Metro, where Trollip is just arrogant and not listening to anyone. We find ourselves in this situation because the voters were undecided, and all of us opportunistically took away the right, took away an opportunity to give voters a second chance to correct their mistake. So we think that in 2019, no matter what happens, if there is no outright winner of the national elections, the voters should vote until they decide who should be their government. They should not leave that responsibility in the hands of the few elite. And when we make choices of such things, they then complain. I don't understand why ESCOM, 23 years into democracy, still honors apartheid contracts. We're complaining here about Guptas. The Guptas are just an irritation. There are people in ESCOM who are dominating the coal contracts there. They've had contracts in ESCOM since apartheid. They still have them today. I don't understand why the Central Energy Fund, which owns a relatively small coal producing company, why is that small coal producing company not capacitated, and then it produces enough coal and supply that coal to ESCOM at a reasonable rate so that ESCOM can sell electricity to our people at an affordable rate. So all of this will not happen because the beneficiaries of apartheid are still benefiting today, and anyone who dares to disturb them will become their enemy. They don't want to hear that. Anyone who says that is a racist, is buying into Bell Pottinger's narrative. I don't buy into Bell Pottinger's narrative. I said this before Bell Pottinger became fashionable in South Africa. I became fashionable before Bell Pottinger. Therefore, I will not have got my narrative from Bell Pottinger. So don't dismiss the genuine demands of our people because of a simple irritation called the Guptas, Zuma, and Bell Pottinger. We must not make a mistake of abandoning the struggle for economic emancipation because of irritations. We must remain focused in fighting white monopoly capital and in transforming the economy to benefit the majority of our people. When we say let's nationalize the banks, you say these people are crazy. They don't know what they are talking about. We are bound to be crazy because not even 1% of the banks in South Africa is owned by a black person. What do you do in a situation like that, where people, the bank owners, had an opportunity to transform without anyone forcing them, had an opportunity to transform without anyone expropriating from them? 23 years into democracy, they've never done that. So you are waiting for craziness. Maybe the craziness is what will be a positive response towards transformation of these economic sectors. Many people say these investors will go because you are scaring them, they will live with their things. What is the point of having them here if we cannot eat this food? We can only smell the food. We have no access to this meal. The bosses are eating alone. The bosses must begin to eat with their people. Otherwise, they can take their food and go, because this food is not benefiting anyone here. We are only eating the crumbs that fall from the table. And that's what we black people are fighting over. We cannot agree to that. The minds are not transformed. The commanding heights of the economy are not transformed. The property ownership patterns are still the colonial and apartheid patterns of property ownership here in South Africa. And everyone else who says that he is not educated, he is stupid, he doesn't think. And many of our people who suck up to these dominant ideas of colonizers agree with a narrative that we cannot think. We can think. We don't have to be economists. We know what we want. All we want is an economic freedom in our lifetime. We said we want free education. And then we are told we cannot afford free education. The banks must loan these people so that they go to school. So that we are permanently in a debt. We will never be free economically, even when we graduate and go and work somewhere. In terms of these recommendations, we must be loaned money and forever be in debt. And what is even worse, our banks can be bought by foreigners. It means you are owing the foreigners, not even South Africans. You are owing the Americans, you are owing the British, you are owing the dominant economies in the world. Why are we not creating a state-owned bank which will not be foreign-owned and then give these loans in the immediate to our students, interest-free loans to our students, and only those who earn more than 1 million per annum should pay the debt back. Those who earn less than that should not pay the debt back, because that is not money. Especially those who come from poor background, especially black people who still have got a responsibility, by the way, to go and pay the black tax. They must build homes for their mothers. They must feed their children, and not only their children. The fact that in the village they know that you are a graduate, you must know that you are going to be supporting all the children in the village. Because every time they pass well, they can't go to school, they knock at your door and say, this child has passed well, he doesn't have money of transport to go to Cape Town, he's got NSFAS. He's got NSFAS, he doesn't have money for registration. Those are the people who must be exempted from paying this loan back, because they are taking care of the poor of the poor. In the villages and in their own homes. In South Africa, we don't need military intervention. There is no crisis that requires the soldiers to do what they did in Zimbabwe. We must thank Madiba and his generation, because they left us with a very powerful weapon to defeat any wrongdoing. Voters don't exercise their votes. Even when we say the ANC is corrupt and show all this evidence, with all this evidence, with the emails, with the testimony that gets to be given in the ESCOM inquiry, the voters still vote the ANC into power. So why do you want to blame anyone? You can't blame Zuma. Zuma didn't put himself in power. Zuma says every day to my money in parliament, if we go to the elections tomorrow, I'll clobber you. And he's not telling lies, he's telling you the truth. The South African voter will vote for this corruption. The voters must exercise their power. The voters do not exercise their power. In 2016, YDA won some municipalities and become a leader in those municipalities. It's not because people outvoted the ANC. The people did not go to the polls. They stayed at home. Meaning, the people love the ANC. And without the ANC, there's nothing else for them. Why is the voter so loyal to the ANC? What is it that we don't see, which the voters see in the ANC. There's no any amount of march which will bring you a regime change. There's no any amount of looting and destruction of property which will bring a regime change. Not in South Africa. All of these things of marching and all that is an attempt to conscientize the voter. But the whole power rests with the voter. There's nothing we can do. Anything other than the power of the voter is unconstitutional, and it must never be encouraged in South Africa. The voter must know the power they have. You cannot say you love this constitution and say this is the best constitution ever, and then want to do unconstitutional things because you are irritated by Jacob Zuma. It doesn't matter how much angry you are. Respect the constitution and the will of the voters. So that's why when we make a call, we say Zuma must go. We don't say the ANC must go, because the voter voted the ANC. So we cannot undermine that will of the voter. But we can say this one who's not a product of the voter must go. So the ANC must self-correct. But the ANC has got no potential to self-correct. There's no potential leader who will emerge and lead the ANC into victory in that conference. That thing is not a funeral of the ANC. It's an unveiling of a tombstone of the ANC. Because the ANC is long dead and buried. So I hope I'm not going to get a question that says who will be the best president in the ANC. They are all the same. Ramaphosa was there when the rot happened. Ramaphosa, in his discussion with Kgalema Motlanthe, remember that guy said to Kgalema, I'm only contesting because I want to fight corruption. I've never seen Ramaphosa in any police station opening a case against corruption. Thank you.
Thanks, Yossi. Okay, so I guess we are here in no small capacity to talk about this unveiling of the ANC's tombstone. So you are in the enviable position, I'd say, of not having to vote for an ANC president this time out and having to apologize in 5 years for having done so. And you said you've never lost a conference, right?
Yeah.
What makes this electoral conference for the ANC so different from the one in 2007, which was a complete watershed in this country's history?
Well, I don't think it will be a watershed moment for the ANC, because it's a continuation of the rot which started in Polokwane. And therefore, the crooks are going to choose which one is the best bet. Crook to lead the mafias going forward. So they are not choosing a president, they are choosing a don of the mafia. So that we must know the difference. So it's not a turning point. Nothing is going to come out of it. They said radical economic transformation. In their policy conference, they came with nothing close to radical economic transformation. So I don't know what is the excitement about. There's really nothing which is going to happen. The watershed moment, not for the ANC, for the country, is 2019, when a country will have an opportunity to choose a different government, and that possibility exists. If you look at how much the ANC got in the previous elections in 2016, 54% or anything like that, it's clearly on its way out. And it doesn't matter what they do in the conference in December.
Okay, well, that seems to be a lot of the consensus opinion is that the ANC is going to be voted out in 2019. But you've just said that the voter needs to exercise this power, and the voter still seems to, no small part, be addicted to the African National Congress. Perhaps it's because the EFF doesn't have something to sell. Is there something materially wrong in a saturated political market with the message that you're delivering, particularly in rural areas?
No, the EFF has got something to sell. The problem is that our people do not trust new ideas. Our people respond more to ideas that have been there for quite some time. And I always give some small example that if there is a new product of washing clothes, and you go and buy that product, and then you come with it at home, your grandmother or your mother is going to fight with you big time. I told you to buy Omo, not this thing. Mama, this one is much better. Imunyula mafura. Itlo jadi apa country. Even before they test the strength of that product, already they reject it outrightly. So the EFF survival is going to depend on its staying power. If it stays for long, if it handles its internal matters properly and to the satisfaction of the voter, and EFF gradually handles some municipalities, some wards where they've won properly, including the universities, they've just won VETs now. The voter is looking at what are they doing at VETs? Can they be trusted? Once they do that, they will gradually gain the trust of our people. So our people are not that gullible that there is a new color now, let's go for it. No, they want to see, does this have a staying power? And the EFF does have the staying power.
Okay, but you've been sort of uncharacteristically quiet this year for a party that has been sort of born on a whole bunch of noise. We know that you've dubbed this year the year of the branch. What does that mean? Maybe you could explain it to the audience a little bit. And given the slow pace of your growth, why not concentrate on urban or peri-urban areas? Why spread the sort of munificence across the entire country when perhaps you should be concentrating on urban areas where you guys have name recognition?
I have been quiet deliberately because the ANC is eating itself. And every time I speak, I unite them. So I said, let me stay away so that they can finish each other. So it's a deliberate move.
Okay.
Right?
Deliberate strategy.
Right? So you see me and Rupert and White Monopoly Capital, we're fighting and all that. Hey, white people, this, black people, we all fighting. We're fighting for all sorts of things. But if aliens were to come here, we'll hold hands together and fight the aliens. That's what I am to the ANC. So I just keep quiet and then allow them to finish each other. Once they are done, I come out and take over the ground because there's no a point of uniting the ANC. So politics are like that. Time and space is very important in politics. So we have concentrated on the year of the branch because we don't want to take power through a back door. If we take power through a back door with such radical policies, the white monopoly capital media will mobilize the same people who voted for us against us. Because our people would have voted for us not because of our ideas. They would have voted for us because they were simply looking for an alternative. They were angry with their current government. And then when they looked at this side, they just decided to make us a rebound. We don't want to be a rebound. We want to be the real boyfriend or husband for that matter. So how do you become a real boyfriend or husband or real wife or real girlfriend? Is by going to the ground and make people aware of your ideas. They must love you for who you are, not what you appear to be. That's why it is the year of the branch. We need to build the branches. We need to go to the rural areas In the rural areas, the ANC is not contested. When you talk politics, they think that is a synonym for ANC. They even think election means ANC. That's why when they are angry with the ANC, they ban the tents of the IEC. Because the ANC is not contested there, so everything else, politics is ANC. So we ought to do away with that idea. I've been in the ANC, and I've seen the PAC, how it failed to defeat the ANC, and I've seen many others, how they failed to defeat the ANC. The failure to defeat the ANC was as a result of the inability to grow the organization and reach all corners of the country. So what I say to the EFF campaigners now in Metsimaholo is that when you do door-to-door, you must even go to the people who are wearing the ANC T-shirts. Why? Because even if they don't vote for us, they must know there is an alternative called the EFF. They shouldn't say, we voted for the ANC because there's no any other party. We only know of the ANC. They must know about us, but still don't vote for us. But they must know that they've got a choice. They've just decided to vote the ANC. So that's what we're busy with. Let the people know an animal called the EFF. And we're succeeding in doing that. The EFF is becoming a household name. Everybody else is now talking about the EFF. Whether negative or positive, it's immaterial. First, introduce your brand. Let people know this brand called the EFF.
So let's just spend a little bit of time with White Monopoly Capital. Towards the end of 2015, I believe, you said that you were going to start a campaign of stepping up pressure on the banks.
Yeah.
Stepping up pressure on the big companies, the untransformed big companies in this country. With the Gupta leaks, we've done a great job of patting ourselves on the back on all of this stuff, but I'm not sure we've done a good enough job linking for the average person in this country what corruption actually means. That when you steal from the government, you're actually stealing from people's plates. We haven't explained this process well enough, right? At the same time, you have political parties that seem, or opposition parties that seem very meek in the face of these big corporates. Haven't put the pressure on them that we would expect. In fact, if anyone has a scalp, it's the Democratic Alliance with Bell Pottinger. Shouldn't the EFF be stepping up? Shouldn't you be holding to that promise about going after ABSA and the other banks?
My brother, in this country, in every big company, there's a huge debate taking on. How do we transform? How do we empower our people? Because of the EFF. There's no company in South Africa which is not talking about this. They may not be doing it, but majority of these companies are now beginning to talk. The ANC doesn't talk about corruption because they are doing it. The DA doesn't talk about transformation because it's benefiting them when the industry remains untransformed. We speak about both. There's every black person in this country, in their workplaces, including the unemployed people, when they are confronted with difficult situation, they are like, maybe we must call the EFF to come and attend to this management. Everywhere. When they are not getting promotions, when white young people with less qualifications are imposed on them, the first thing they say from their mouth is, EFF spoke about these things long before, and we see them happening now. So we've given our people the weapon to use at their workplaces. So we don't have to be there ourselves. Those workers who are there, they are the EFF themselves. They are now fighting for themselves. Today, we see a lot of things being exposed because the EFF has given these people a voice. They've got the voice. So don't tell me about public relation Bell Pottinger. I'm talking real stuff, man. Our people have gained serious confidence. Ask any black person in corporate here in Sandton when you live here. They will never articulate and not finish the articulation without praising the EFF on how it has brought about confidence in them. The Johannesburg a stock exchange here. We went into a meeting with them. The company, they said to us, we've started gradually to introduce offering our workers the shares in our company, in line with what you have asked us to do. And there is a chap in this company who speaks a lot here. He's the one who stood up in the meeting of the workers and said, we are happy you are beginning to implement the memorandum of the EFF because now we are receiving something from the company we work so hard for. So all of that, it's happening. And because we are doing it genuinely, not for public relations, we don't care whether it gets reported or not. As long as the conditions are changing for our people, we are happy with that. We've done that. We've put too much pressure in this country. We continue to put too much pressure in this country. We didn't go to ABSA for simple reason. Because Gupta Stooges hijacked our plan and went to ABSA. And then what must happen? I must march behind Atul. I can't do that. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do it. I announced ABSA. There's no one who said to me, announce ABSA here. I announced ABSA on my own. I will implement it as and when I want to do it. Not through anyone's pressure. I can't get a pressure from Ketama. I can't get pressure from Jimmy Mani. No. We announce programs of the EFF, and when opportunists hijack them, we pull out. You know, we announced at the Israeli embassy that when those racists go to march, we are going to counter them as the EFF. When I arrive at home, boom, email from Kletam. No, we want to join you. On that day of the march. Hey, can't you go and march alone? Why do you want the EFF?
So if 6 people march ahead of you, you won't do it?
He must go and march alone. I never write him a letter to ask him to march with him. So I'm not going to be hijacked by opportunists. You see, you are not going to use the Gupta's corruption to justify an attack on white. Monopoly capital. They are all the same. They are parasitic. They are all capitalists. They steal from our people. So I don't care about Guptas. In the same way, I don't care about white monopoly capital. And white people must start moving away from a concept of white monopoly capital. When we say white monopoly capital, we're not saying white people. But, you know, they've become so fragile that when you attack white monopoly capital, they think you are attacking them. They should be joining, especially white women who were excluded by these white Afrikaner males from owning the means of production. The white women must join the EFF and say, yes, we too were excluded by our own husbands. We want to own the land. We want to own the industries. That's what we are talking about. But once you say white, hey, they are very sensitive.
Next steps.
So we don't want that. Stop being sensitive. We are a democratic country. And this democracy can only work if there is a robust debate. Which sometimes makes us uncomfortable. That's democracy for you.
That clock is being really cruel. And I do want to open it up to the floor for some quick questions. That will be questions and quick. But I want to jump from Santon to Zimbabwe.
Yeah.
I'm totally confused. You loved Bob back when you were in the ANC Youth League. Then you fell out with Bob. Now you sort of are happy that he's gone. Explain to me the whole process, because I
love Bob. There's never been a moment where I don't say I love Mugabe. I don't love Mugabe. I love him.
But you advocated for his removal.
But when I love you, it doesn't mean I can't criticize you. My wife is my biggest critic person. All the time when I finish to speak, she comes on top of me. I'm like, are you sent by Zuma or something?
We share that experience.
She does that because she wants good out of me. So our love for Uncle Bob didn't diminish. We love him. And that's why we said, don't return Mnangagwa, don't return back the land to the settlers. All we said to Uncle Bob was, a good dancer knows when to leave a dance floor. It doesn't mean you don't know how to dance. So you must ask these black people who are sitting next to you. In the weddings there, in the townships and parties, we open something called a circle. And then a good dancer gets into the circle and he dances. It doesn't matter how good that person is. If he takes long, we drag him. But he remains a good dancer. So by removing him from the circle doesn't mean he's not a good dancer. So it's only those who suffer from a mind of a rat who think that when you love a person, you can't criticize that person. No. The ones we love, we criticize the most. I said to President Mugabe, he must leave, not now. And some journalist was saying to me, you are mantashing. I said this in March. And then I was insulted by ZANU-PF. They called me all sorts of names. And I didn't respond back. I said to them, one day you'll agree with me. Like I always do here in South Africa. I give you a scenario of what's going to happen. And then when it happens, you are like, this guy is a prophet. It's scenario. You can see what will be the result. So I've seen it long before that President Mugabe is going to be humiliated if he doesn't leave. And then look at what happened. He had to know it's time to go. And the problem is not his wife. The blaming of the wife fits directly into narrative of patriarchal society. That for every wrong thing we blame women. His wife did not do anything wrong. He stayed forever. Not because that wife said he must stay forever. He thought he was a mini god of Zimbabwe in his own right without that wife. And that's what we do for our partners. If my wife wants to stay in this company which is exploitative, she was working for an exploitative company, I said to her, you must leave. She says, no, I like it here. I'm like, oh yeah, you can stay, baby, it's fine, it's okay. We support each other like that as partners. She found herself in that situation. But she has never claimed to be a politician. She has never claimed to be a revolutionary. A revolutionary is Mugabe. He had to know, even if she wanted him to stay forever. As a revolutionary, he had to know himself what is wrong and right, and advise her that, baby, it's time to go.
Very, very quickly. The EFF has described the coup as progressive and sort of as a genius move, which I suppose it actually was. It was very brilliantly executed. Don't you think a coup sets a terrible precedent in Southern Africa?
Well, the Zimbabweans have tried everything possible. You know, there are certain things we don't wish for ourselves, but we find ourselves in that, you know, a compromised position. That's why we kept on begging them. We don't want a drop of blood. We don't want a drop of blood. Let everyone cooperate. It's an unscripted type of a coup. I think those who come after us, students of politics, will have to really write about that and explain what happened. And how can it be done like that without a drop of blood. So we want to thank them for that. We may not agree with the method they used, but those people were in a terrible situation. Where a man fires people like it's happening here in South Africa without any reason, an abuse of power, it cannot be tolerated. You are forcing the army to act in a manner they did in Zimbabwe. That's why I'm saying here in South Africa it will not happen. Because here we go to election every 5 years. And then we choose every president we want. Even if Zuma wants to come back now, it will not happen.
We're going to take him. Election in 2019?
No, if he wants to stand, we're going to take him to court and disqualify him. He can't run for the third term. He can do that thing in his shack called the ANC, not in South Africa. No, here we're not going to allow that nonsense. We'll take him to court, and when he defies the court, he will be charged and arrested.
I'm going to open the floor very quickly. Over there.
Over here.
Go ahead.
Thank you very much for coming, Julius Malema. My name is Mikey from Umuzi. I just want to ask you a question, very simple for the youth of South Africa. What is that thing that you want to tell people out there, especially the youth of South Africa? As I said, that we are here unemployed. We're trying to go to schools. We don't have funds. If the EFF goes into power, what is that thing that you want to tell the youth that this will happen for them for change?
Well, we need to open universities for our students. We will make resources available. There's plenty of resources in South Africa. And those resources are being taken out of our country through illicit financial flows and tax avoidance. All of that needs to be arrested, and we rechannel the resources to important things like education. We need to minimize, especially the spending on politicians. A lot of money gets spent on politicians. They've got houses in Pretoria, houses in Cape Town. They fly all types of things. They've got all types of benefits. You need to cut those things out. I don't understand why we buy cars for politicians and not buy cars for workers. Because workers go and get financed by the banks. Politicians are earning salaries and huge salaries. Let them go and queue in the banks there and apply for the financing of their cars. Let them pay for their cars. And then if they do our job, we'll see how we pay them back for those jobs. We pay kilometers, whatever the case might be. So it cannot be that some money must be made available for these special people. There is enough money. We need to fight unemployment in South Africa by bringing confidence in the investors. There is a lot of liquidity in our banks. The people with money, they are not investing in industrialization, which will lead into jobs because they don't have confidence in our democracy. They don't have confidence that tomorrow their investments will be safe. We ought to guarantee them through how we conduct ourselves, by combating corruption, by arresting those who are not law-abiding, by making sure that the institutions of the state are functional. By doing all of those things, will then build investor confidence. Once industrialization happens, once liquidity gets invested in South Africa, we get our people jobs. So once we address that, we're made. And our people, especially the youth, you must never say that you have been to school and there are no jobs, therefore education is useless. No. You are not getting education because you want to be a teacher or an engineer or anything of that sort. You are just expanding your knowledge and your understanding. Through those qualifications, you can outmaneuver every situation. Even if there may not be jobs, in your field, but an educated person